Hey, it's Jer. All right, we've got our project charter made, and next up for BRD. All right, and so that was the human process. Now here's where the machine really starts to do the heavy lifting. And so it's going to translate what our goal is, what our intent is, what we want to accomplish, all that detail, and it's going to take that and it's going to form it into requirements. And so requirements say that the system should do or the user should be able to. And then these requirements build a strong foundation that we set feature functions on top of. You can see that right here, feature function document. And then that feature function document sits as a strong foundation that the process map sits on top of. That's like all the clicks and all that's what's happening. And then the code is built on all of those. All right, so this is going to be our first piece. So all we need to do is we need to come over here, copy that prompt. We're still in Cowork. Here I am in Cowork. And I'm going to stay in my original session. And so you can see here I renamed it. Just, you can just click here and click rename. It should be in a project. It's in my recipe fun project. And it's not that long. Look, it's not that long. So when sessions get long, Claude gets worse because it needs context, it needs memory. We'll talk about that, or you can look it up on YouTube. Here's what we're going to do. We're now going to use this project charter that we have. It's in Claude's native language. It's in the folder, right? And bingo bango. Now let's read this. I am sharing my project charter, all right? Please create a business requirements document, all right? And it's going to build it in a certain format that I wanted to build. And then I'm going to ask it, please ask any questions to clarify. Clarify. All right, there you go. And so there are skills. There's a grill me skill I love that a guy did. And so it just says, hey, grill me. And Claude comes back and asks you a bunch of specific questions so that it can fill in details and it can figure things out. Otherwise, it's going to have to plug in detail and it's going to have to figure it out. And so you might as well help it. Now what we're waiting for Claude to do is it's going to think and it's going to create a BRD. And the BRD is going to be a document that we want to review, but we're never going to really have a great handle on all the details. But we want to review the key sections and start to point it in certain directions. All right, let's take a look at what it says. Which tech stack should I specify? Gosh, I don't really know. Now, actually, I do want to do Next, Vercel, and Claude API because that's what I've done before. But if you don't know, just say, hey, oh, Chuck. I do a lot of projects with Chuck, so it's got him in there. But yeah, we're going to go with Claude's recommendation. Which recipe input types should I support? Recipe URL, yeah, I like that. Pasted recipe text, I like that. Ingredient list only. Yeah, photo of a recipe, don't care about. Who will use this app? I don't know, maybe some people want, no authentication. Where should recommendations come from? Web search. I wonder why. Why are you recommending no web search? Just curious. Maybe it's, I don't know, takes time. I don't know what it's thinking. But we asked it the question and let's see what it comes back with. Speed up for the 2 to 4 week target. That 2 to 4 week target is nonsense. Looking at your charter more carefully, let's see. Okay, yeah, I do want the web search based on what it's saying. So it made an original recommendation. Then I said, hey, why are you doing this? And then it came back and said, oh, well, I do want web search. Exactly. That is a classic example of why we put evaluation loops in, why you want to be involved in the process. So once it chunks out this BRD, we're going to bake an evaluation loop in, and I'll show you how to do that. And so it's going to just take a minute. Just go get a soda or water or do, you know what I should do? I should be doing 20 push-ups while Claude's working. It's like Claude would be smart and I'd make more stuff and then I'd be ripped. I'd be like Herschel Walker in 1992. All right, great. We got it. So view BRD. So it's going to tell you a little note here. And then I just usually click on the documents right here. And here it is in my side window. And it's a lengthy document. And so I do read this. Everything's built on the foundation. And so if you don't understand anything in it, then you can ask it. If something's wrong or incorrect, just say, hey, this section is incorrect. Let's lead. System shall do what for whom under conditions. Okay, so recipe input. The system shall accept a recipe URL submitted by the user and fetch a recipe content from that URL. Traces to charter. System must accept pasted recipes, accept ingredients list, parse recipe from URL, must have. That's true. Plant-based recommendation, identify animal products, must have. Return 2 to 3 alternative recipes, must have. Source recipes via web search. Exclude fabricated vegan products. Exclude meat analogs. Prefer whole food ingredients. Prefer 5 to 10 ingredient recipes. Should have. Yep. Flavor forward. Yeah, I don't care about that, but whatever. We'll see what it gives me. Include source attribution. Must have. Output and display. Display recommendations. It's going to start making recommendations. All right. So capture the recommendation. Let's see on this feedback loop. One control and recommendation. Used or not used. Ooh, that's good. That's good. I like that. I like that. Substitution history. Nice to have. Non-functional requirements. All of that. All right, great. We're going to take that. Now we're going to do our feedback loop. All right, now look, show and finder. I can click there. Look, it's building it out. We're in my recipe fun. All right, there it is. It's working. Now I'm back over to Claude. Look, I'm in Cowork. Now I'm going to create a feedback loop. I'm going to Cowork in chat, add to project, recipe fun, and the project might not be there. Chat and Cowork don't talk projects sometimes, so you might have to add it there. So just do that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add these artifacts. They're .md files, which is its language. I'm saying, please, let's see, I have a project in Cowork already going, and I want you to do a deep review on the charter and BRD. Please think hard. I think you can think hard, think harder, think hardest. I think those are commands for it. Please think hard and evaluate the BRD. Use the evaluation protocol. Evaluation. Okay, I don't know that it matters that much. All right, and I know I have the protocol already installed. If you don't have it installed, then just send me a message and I'll send you the evaluation protocol. My friend Chuck made it. I refined it and then built it to where it's transportable across projects. So it's going to run a deep evaluation on the BRD. Looks like it wants to maybe it's going to ask us questions. Maybe it's going to ask for clarification. So we're going to sit tight and wait for it. All right, let's see what it says. Gave us some comments, and now look, the evaluation. And all evaluations are the same format. All right, it says what it's going to get. It says arguments in favor, arguments against, and then makes a recommendation. I don't really care about arguments in favor in this case. I just care about against. These feature functions do most of the work. BRD doesn't say how. It makes sense to me. It needs to say how. If I care about what it's saying, I can go into the details. Model and tool versions pinned, so it's pinning to Sonnet 4.6, but there's already a 4.7 and there's going to be an 8.9 at some point, so why would it pin to it? Yeah, I agree, don't pin to it. NFR is loose for architecture. No idea what that means. Trust but verify, so that's why we run the eval loops. Don't know about that. Trust but verify feedback loops. Parse URL underspecifies failure, so what happens? Usually, yeah. Feedback loop has a measurable hold. That's great. Tell me about that. All right. Says some stuff. So it has some recommendations, strongly recommend, and ultimate recommendations, and then it's going to give a high. Okay. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to go back over to. I'm going to label this real quick. Rename recipe fun and eval loop. If I need to use it again, I can use it again. All right, I'm gonna go back over to Cowork. I'm in our recipe fun. It just gave me the BRD and say I had chat. Let's see, Claude chat evaluate the BRD. Please do a deep review and think harder about its evaluation. Please evaluate, think harder, and please evaluate. That's what I want to say. All right, and when if I just hit enter, it would send it. If I hit shift enter, then it lets me paste it in. There we go. So Cowork gave me the BRD. I took over to chat in the same project, gave it the context, which was the charter and the BRD, and said use my evaluation protocol, which is a skill, 2-page write-up of how to evaluate things, what the tone is, all of that. Send me a message if you want that. And then taking that evaluation and bringing it back to my original creator. Now, if this was like hard code and something really pressure, like I might do this a few times till they got really close, because this Cowork is going to come back and it's going to tell me things in favor, things against, and make a recommendation. And I could send that back over and back and forth and do that a few times, and then they would end up getting really close to agreeing till there's nothing left to do. This is just a dumb recipe thing, so I'm just gonna rock and roll. I'm gonna do it twice. I'm gonna do 2, and that's gonna be good enough. All right, after a few minutes it kicks it out, so it's gonna do the same thing. It's gonna do an evaluation, and it's gonna critique, and then it's gonna talk about arguments against, factual error on Anthropic's model versions. Now they're getting in an argument. I literally don't care. All that I want is I don't want the model to be hard-coded in. Please make an elegant recommendation on this solution. And I always ask it, review Anthropic documentation. Sometimes they go off on a tangent. Literally, this would probably be something they go down this rabbit hole forever on. And so I just tell them stop, okay? And is there any other night? So SQLite on Vercel suggestion. I already use Vercel already. I like to learn new tools. Also like to keep it simple if I were to use anything. So I'm asking it for a geo recommendation here. All right, anything else that we want to feedback? Internal contradictions, success measure, miss real issues, blah, blah, blah. Recommendation, drop or correct. I already told it what to do. Replace the SQLite, maybe. I just told it, give it some feedback, resolve the internal contradiction. It'll do that. Added the project eval. Strongly recommend, add 1 paragraph. All right. Please take my notes and also your recommendations and think harder to update BRD these evaluation. Okay, so I gave it feedback, right? Then ultimately I'm saying, look, let's go with your recommendations, take my feedback, and I want you to think harder and give me a final BRD. Let's see what it does. All right, it's got some details for us. All right, they've got a concession, a recommendation on something, so that model selection, the cleanest pattern, read the model name from a single environment variable. So great, it's gonna bake that in, but it's just giving us the information. Recommendation 2, that was that Vercel argument. It did some research, it found something. Great, it's like my friend who's an expert in something telling me all the details. I don't know what that means, but here's what I do know. I want you to capture it, and I need that for later. Okay. Please capture the notes from your 2 recommendations for the future in BRD. All right, so let's go to do that. And then it gave us the BRD. All right, so it has the updated BRD here. And there's the V2, and it's got open resolve things. You can go through, you can read it. Look, it's got a lot more stuff now. Look, it's got this gray case decisions, prefer this. Ooh, I like this. You know what this makes me think? We should ultimately, the next version of this, I'm gonna create like an input matrix where I can say I prefer these things and don't prefer these. So I'm gonna ask it in BRD, carve out a note for next gen of the product to have, and what do we call this? Ingredient. I love making little matrices. Ingredient matrix where the user can input preferred ingredients, etc. All right, fix that, not that it matters. Matrix, so it's gonna add that note. That gave me a good idea. I like that, that's why I like reading through it, because it gave me an idea. All right, we're gonna keep moving. And so this wraps up my BRD, and now I'm ready to move on to the feature function document. And this is the last time I'm gonna understand really almost anything that it makes, except a few blips. And so at this point, I'm in the driver's seat driving the car, traveling 85 miles an hour, trusting that the machine is gonna work, trusting that my readouts are clear. Now my eyes aren't closed, my hands are on the wheel, I'm sort of in control, but I'm driving 85 miles an hour in a metal bullet, so I'm sort of not in control. And that's kind of where we're gonna be for the remainder of the project.